Hello, this is Mark and welcome to this video on how to calculate the PSAR indicator using Excel. So we've got a fairly typical situation with the PSAR on the screen. We have a downtrend here followed by an uptrend. During the downtrend, the PSAR is predominantly above the price, and during the uptrend, the PSAR is below the price. Now I'm going to show you how you can calculate this indicator for yourself using Excel. But if you're not interested in actually learning how to calculate it, I've got a shortcut. I have an ebook available in the Amazon Kindle store. Now there is a link on the screen if you would like more information. And in this I show how to calculate the PSAR, MACD, RSI, ATR, 21 technical indicators, and it comes with a free spreadsheet, so you can start straight away in testing indicators and back testing strategies. Now to get on with the showing you how you can calculate it for yourself, I'm going to put in, based on this historic data, some titles. We have the extreme point, acceleration. We've got here the PSAR minus the EP times acceleration. Now this is the amount that the PSAR will change. We have here an initial PSAR and a PSAR and a trend. Now I'll just briefly explain why we use an initial PSAR. The reason is that the PSAR, unlike most other technical indicators, changes direction as soon as the point that would have been the PSAR, so to extrapolate down to here, so as soon as this point is touched by the price, we immediately flip over here. So this means we have a value for the PSAR which is current, providing it's not touched, but when it is touched, we have to use a different value. Okay, so this is going to be the actual PSAR, and we also have to identify the trend. Okay, so the extreme point. The extreme point is always on the opposite side of the price of the PSAR. So if these dots are the PSAR, the extreme point is the lowest point that it on the other side. So from this point onwards, this is the extreme point. We remain in the downtrend. So this becomes extreme point, then this point, and sure enough this is the new PSAR from this extreme point. So I'm going to start it off by just saying it's the low. If we want to take the reverse of that as the PSAR, we have this is just an initial value. It doesn't matter which direction you start off in because the PSAR will quickly correct itself, so we'll take the high point. Well, we've decided we're going to start off in a downtrend, so I'm going to refer to this as falling. Next thing I'm going to look at is the acceleration. You've probably seen these two numbers before, 0.02 and 0.2. Now 0.02 you might have heard explained before is the initial acceleration factor and the increment. And 0.2 is the maximum acceleration. So the acceleration factor is how much we're going to move our PSAR. We're going to start off at 0.02. If the trend is continued, in other words, if we make a new extreme point, the acceleration factor is increased, and it is increased by the increment. So we start off at 0.02. We go to 0.04 and so on until our maximum, which is 0.2. So anyway, we can start off with our simple one at the beginning, 0.02. And we can also now calculate the amount we're going to move, which is our PSAR value minus the extreme point multiplied by our acceleration factor. Okay, so we've done the first line. Now we're going to have to look at the logic of the PSAR. So we're going to start a formula with equals, and we're going to use an if statement. So I'm going to put equals if. So if we're in a downtrend, if the preceding trend is a downtrend, then take this and subtract this. So we've already said this is the amount that the PSAR is going to move. So if we're in a downtrend, we're going to move the point this further forward. However, there is another rule for the PSAR, which is that when we're in a downtrend, our PSAR cannot be lower than the two preceding high points. And I'm going to program that. I'm going to put this in Excel using max of either that, this, or the previous day's or period's high. The opposite situation, if the preceding trend is an uptrend, if it's rising, this time we work out the minimum of this minus this, the low, and the previous low. Okay, so there we have the calculation for the initial PSAR. Now we can work out the actual PSAR for this period. We do that by using an if and statement. In fact, there's 4 different scenarios that can occur for the PSAR, and we're going to use 4 different if and logical statements. Now, the first of these is if we're in a downtrend, so if L5 equals falling. So what we've said here is the preceding trend is a downtrend, and our high is not higher than our initial PSAR. So we know what to do in this situation, which is to use that and make that the actual PSAR value. Now from that we can just take the opposite and say we're in an uptrend, L5 is rising. Now this time we've checked that the low is still greater than the initial PSAR. And if that is the case, well, again we can just use the calculated value and make it the actual value. But we have 2 other scenarios that we need to account for. The first of these is, again, if we're in a downtrend. But this time we have to look at whether or not the high point, the price, has penetrated or gone past the initial PSAR. And if it has, then we have to flip over. We're going into a different trend, we're changing the direction, and we do that by taking the extreme point. And then we can do the reverse of that. So this time we've worked out if we're in an uptrend, the low is lower than or equal to the initial PSAR, in which case we take the extreme point again. So there we go, we've calculated the 4 different scenarios which make up the PSAR. Okay, now we can have a look at the trends. Okay, so I'm just doing a very simple if statement here. If the closing price is greater than the PSAR, then the trend is falling. Okay, so now we have to go back and have a look at the extreme points. How do we calculate this? Again, we're going to rely on the trend. So now what we've said is when the price is falling, so here we have the price is falling, we know we've made a new extreme point if we've gone lower than the previous value. So we're in a downtrend, we're looking at the minimum value of either this or our new low. If we're rising, if we're in a uptrend, then now we have to look at the max of either this, the previous value, or our new high. So there we've looked at all the different scenarios. We looked at if we're falling or if we're rising. Will only be one or the other. Okay, getting close now. Now we need to work out when we have to change the acceleration factor. So we know we're initially 0.02, and we know that if we make a new extreme point and the trend remains the same, then we need to increase the acceleration factor up to a maximum of this value. So we're equals if and. And what have I said here? I've said that if the trend remains the same. So is L6 equals L5? We haven't changed direction. And then we're going to check out. We're going to assume in the first one that we have made a new extreme point. We've gone lower in a downtrend. And we need to check that this remains lower than our acceleration, our maximum rather. And if all these are the case, then we take our current acceleration factor, and we add to it the increment. Okay, so the next one we need to look at is if we have a trend. So we have a trend, so we're saying the trend is still the same, however our extreme point has not changed. In this scenario, what do we do? Well, we keep the acceleration factor the same. Okay, so what is the other option that could happen? Well, the other option is that we could have a change of trend. So in this case, the change of trend has changed. These are not the same values, and in which case, well, we know we can always use our initial value, 0.02 in this case. In all other situations, we'll use the maximum. And then we can close it. And then we have it. Now we can just drag this down here. And now we have the amount that it's going to move by. I can highlight these 6 cells, double click here, and then we have all the calculations below. Now, as I said, if you enjoyed this video but you're not interested in doing the calculations yourself, please check out my ebook available in the Amazon Kindle store, and please subscribe if you'd like more videos of this type about calculating technical indicators and backtesting trading strategies. And for more information about the financial markets and using Excel, please go to www.tradeinformed.com.